Hello again. This is Ben Hitchcock Cross talking to you today. We can still keep up with some things. Come on, really. Okay. We are here to talk today about Jeremy Miller and the former coach of the Arrowhead, I'm going to say athletics program, but wrestling for sure, adventure, PE, and working with a lot of there's a special vocabulary for special education, physical education, and I wouldn't do it justice. So I'm going to leave it alone. But those are also extremely valuable contributions here. Now, every once in a while, I run across somebody who is the real deal. It happens a lot of times in education, but elsewhere. And Jeremy Miller is the real deal. There's no doubt about it. He is, I think, when he was a wrestler himself, he was a real deal. When he was as an educator, he's the real deal. He is a problem solver, and he leads by example. And I think that that's ultimately what led him, what caused the problem here that we're dealing with. So now there's going to be two sets of audiences here. There's going to be the greater deliberate indifference was audience, and there's going to be the Jeremy Miller Arrowhead crew. And so that's why I'm trying to give you a little bit longer introduction here. I'm Ben Hitchcock Cross. I'm a lawyer. I represented Jeremy Miller at the hearing here. We are going to show the hearing. You won't see my face in that recording. You will see the board members, and that's what we try to focus on there. We have broken it down into several half-an-hour sessions. We'll be putting it out over the course of about a week and a half. They'll basically go without commentary. You can comment on them yourselves. If you have questions, I'm sure we'll try to answer them as best we can. Keep in mind that Mr. Miller has ongoing disputes, I would say, with things aren't resolved yet. So, but this guy saw a problem at the Arrowhead School District, and it's basically this. The school board is in the mood to clean house. And I don't totally understand the dynamic out there for sure. But as I would put it, it's sort of a loose coalition of religious right and ultra right, sort of conservative, which is, I would say at the moment, the sort of culture war coalition here, at least in Wisconsin. And they stand for things like no cell phones in schools, which I support that 100%, and beyond. But they also, I think, would be, let's put it like this. Wauwatosa School Board, Arrowhead School Board could not find many things to agree on. Very simple. I mean, and I just don't want to say, I don't want to put words on them like wacko or, religious conservatives or anything like that. I noticed that one of the board members had a cross very visibly on his laptop. I understand that he made a number of religious statements in conjunction with his campaign. And I understand that there are others there. The main thing, though, was the hostility towards the crowd and the evident support for this superintendent who was clearly out of his league. And they had very much attempted to shore this up and keep it from going public. What's the problem? They are cutting out teachers. That may be perfectly fine. I think they're cutting them out because they're old and cost too much money. And I think they're cutting them out because they think they're, standing in the way of their plans, which is, again, I don't quite understand it, but they seem fundamentalist in their outlook. Yeah, that's what I want to put. My only experience with this particular board is the meeting that you'll see there. Then my only and we get to know each other fairly well. Um, and you know me, I'm always hesitant to put labels on people that people haven't put on themselves. I'm perfectly happy making judgments. I just don't want to say that that means that they are forever. What this is what I can do. I can say that this board is was out there to get Mr. Miller and to remove him. I know that board members made comments about Mr. Miller's salary being $90,000. I know that they made comments about not caring about getting rid of teachers, and I know you'll see what they say. Um, and I'll put it like this: the reason that this headline here is the culture wars is because Mr. Miller has a brother-in-law who was born in Ireland. And as you may know, my wife is also not from this country, and he and I at least had a brief conversation or something along that lines of foreigners living in America. And the one of the first things he said to me when this was over is, "This is the culture wars. This is the tip of the culture wars, isn't it?" And again, nobody said Jesus, nobody said DEI, nobody said any of those things. Nobody had to, and that's what was sort of interesting here is that on many of these issues, I mean, we're talking about a very narrow slice of what we are normally talking about in terms of sort of the window of discussion here. I mean, if we're talking about from pro DEI to human growth and development and sort of completely opposed on that end, these we're talking about a dialogue. I think it's more here. So that's one thing that I'm trying to emphasize here again is that this is the audience that we're talking about more globally. This is a very narrow and constrained audience, and ultimately the question here is supposed to be, should this teacher be terminated? Okay, the school board is supposed to represent the conscience of the community, and this is a check here. Is there just cause to believe that this person should be terminated? Okay, doesn't go to a judge, it goes to the school board. Now, there's a lot of bad reasons for that, and there's a lot of reasons why this school board and this superintendent are connected, and it's really unfair. Now, there is a United States Supreme Court case that's ultimately dealing with this issue straight from Wisconsin called Hortonville, which the Supreme Court says that, hey, it's ultimately a political decision. That's how they set it up. They can do that, meaning the state of Wisconsin. So we have frequently in our school laws here these sort of unappealable school board decisions. Some of them are appealable, and let's be clear here: if the school board terminates you for an illegal reason, you still have recourse. It's just that you can't attack the way they made the decision. Do you get what I'm saying? The due process of it. I think that's the best way to put it. We know about due process here. Okay. So, finally, we're going to say that the accusations, and you'll see that in general in these things, I don't care about what the accusations against my client are unless it's somewhat clear that that's what the issue is. It seemed to me from the get-go that the real issue was, because I heard this from many other people, was, and you'll hear this, that they stood up to the superintendent, bullying people and pushing people out, meaning forcing them to resign or terminating them for the sole, infraction of standing up to his authority. Okay? So remember that standing up to the superintendent's authority is probably not actually against the rules. In the way that we're not talking about insubordination. We're talking about using the processes nominally available to people to exercise their due process rights, for example, and then they're being stomped on. That's what we're talking about, okay? And we're talking about teachers of the year, to principals of the year. I mean, Arrowhead is a destination school district. You'll hear all about it, but it's a big deal in the past, or at least it had been, to say you're from Arrowhead. We'll see how that continues. And so what's going on here is that this gym teacher, this wrestling coach, is leading by example by saying, no, I'm not going to do this. We're not putting up with this anymore. We need to have school, but we need to have a public hearing and talk about this because I'm not going quietly. Okay. Now, let's talk about what he supposedly did wrong. He is um, alleged, this is a gym teacher in a workout class, is alleged to have worked out in front of the students. And that's ultimately what he was terminated for. Um, you'll see there's other he's accused of being a thief, a liar, and something else because he's supposedly stealing time from the district and lying to his colleagues when he looks them in the face every day and doesn't admit that he's stealing time. I mean, literally, that's what we're getting. This is straight out of North Korea. By the way, a much better, we need a much better or more varied examples than North Korea. I mean, we always have the greatest right here, America, and then we always, we get fall into Nazi Germany and North Korea. We need something better than that. It's just that you really need that bureaucratic, efficient state there to sort of compare with just what this bureaucratic tyranny is. But I'm sure there's great examples. East Germany might be something. We just don't say Soviet Russia anymore. I don't know why. But that is the thing. We got to have people out there. Come on, Australians. What do you say? It's got to be Nazis. It's got to be something. But yeah, that is my question out there. What do you guys say in Arrowhead, for goodness sake? So, I just, I'm an amateur educator at best, and I'm surrounded by people with PhDs in learning pedagogy. So I'm frequently, chastised for saying anything. But it seemed to me like the guy's teaching. It seemed to me like he's teaching hard. And but remember, ultimately, it doesn't matter, and it's a political farce. And so that, I think, is a lot of what we're going to see here is what are the politics of the moment? What are the politics of, we filled up the room with this person's supporters here. What are the politics of what they're doing? What is the board doing? Because basically the board is sending a message to everybody to shut up, and everybody else is saying, you better look out because if you do this, board, you're next. And by the way, they're asking for a referendum coming up, and there's a big problem. So, yeah, there is going to be a clash that's coming up, Arrowhead, and I think that this may just be the beginning. So, there you have it, a Ben Hitchcock cross patented roundabout and lengthy, somewhat confusing, no doubt, filled with a lot of ums. And here we are. So, appreciate all that. But seriously, Jeremy Miller is the real deal. And it's an honor to sit next to him. It's an honor to work with him. And it's an honor to explain his cause here, which is the people of Arrowhead School District deserve better. And he is willing to risk his connection and opportunity to do what he loves, meaning teaching their children, for the greater good of everybody. So, thank you to Mr. Miller.